Hey everyone, before we start on this new episode, if you like what we do, give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. It will help get more viewers, and we will be able to do more of what we love, and that's talk about animation. Thank you, and on with the show.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to a mini episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, we've got Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And today's mini episode is all about the Ice Age adventures of Buck Wild. But before we dive into that thing, Netflix put out a teaser for Guillermo del Toro's take on Pinocchio.
Yeah, they gave us a quick little teaser with Ewan McGregor as Sebastian J. Cricket. And he's basically saying, like, you may know this story, but not from this perspective before. But now we're going to tell it. And even if it's just like 30 seconds, it looks great. It's stop motion. It's Guillermo del Toro. He's finally getting to make a stop motion animated film.
Oh, yeah. It looks very distinct. I love when directors like Del Toro and even Wes Anderson before him get to play around with their signature style and incorporate it into animation, particularly stop motion, because they have a very unique like visual aesthetic. And this is like the perfect medium for them to play around with that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's going to be great. We'll have to wait until December. Wish we didn't have to wait that long, but that's what happens.
Yeah, stop motion takes a long time.
Yeah, well, that and it's just like they're obviously setting it up to be the big holiday movie for the service, and it'll be during award season, which if Netflix has what I think is coming out, like what we talked about, they're going to have a stacked competition. We'll just have to see what happens, and maybe Annecy Film Festival does, an online thing, and hopefully they do a work in progress so we can look at a little bit of the behind the scenes and see little clips of the movie and what have you. So, yeah.
Oh, I would love to see that. But for now, we have to talk about the first Ice Age movie made since Disney acquired 20th Century Fox. And it is the first one to be released since Blue Sky has been dissolved. This is the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, directed by John C. Duncan, from a screenplay written by William Schifrin, Ray De Laurentiis, and Jim Hecht. The film continues the escapades of the Possum Brothers, Crash and Eddie, who set out to find a place of their own. Together with the one-eyed weasel, Buck Wild, they face the dinosaurs who inhabit the lost world. I have a question for you. When this was first announced, did you, like me, assume it was going to be a TV series?
From what I remember back in 2020 when they first announced this, they said it was going to be a movie, but I think it was very vague on the details about it. All they said was they were going to make a new Ice Age thing, and it was going to be focused on Buck, the character that was introduced in the third movie and was the best thing about the last movie. Then let's just say they were keeping details tight for a reason.
Yeah.
Then, of course, they shut down Blue Sky Studios for the most asinine of reasons. Like, they really could have just let them finish Nimona. But to be clear, before we jump into talking about the movie as a whole, do not go and harass anyone who worked on this new Ice Age film. It is not their fault that Blue Sky got shut down and that Nimona got canceled. This movie has nothing to do with Nimona getting canceled. This isn't like we've seen this on Twitter and people are just kind of saying like, make sure, no matter how you feel about this film, Nimona was a victim of Disney being a giant mega corporation for a chunk of that reason. Sometimes film projects just go under. They either because of just people not agreeing on what to do, and sometimes it's just like, man, there's just nothing here. Not to say that's the situation with Nimona. It's never really like, oh, we don't need this Nimona film since we got this Ice Age film in the works for Disney Plus. But with all that said, I guess let's it's kind of a bummer that the first time we get to talk about a certain franchise on this podcast for January has been when it's on the last film.
Although, who's to say this is really the last? There have been rumblings of a 7th Ice Age movie in the works, but we'll see after this weekend.
I guess let's talk about the franchise as a whole. What do you think about it?
I think, and it's been a while since I've seen them all. I remember really liking the first one for what it was back in 2002 or 2001. It was pretty good. Not the best animated movie I've seen during that time, but it was good. It showed that Blue Sky was like a force to be reckoned with. Out of the sequels, the only one I really enjoyed was Dawn of the Dinosaurs, and that's probably because of the introduction of Buck Wild, who is like my favorite character now of the franchise. The other sequels range from like fine, I guess, to only one of them being actively awful, which is Continental Drift.
I think Collision Course was the worst one to me. To me, it's like it is their flagship franchise, and I understand why they kept making more of them. And there's a lot of cool stuff about the first film that would go on to help basically lay the groundwork for future animation, like detail. It's like how Ice Age was one of the first CGI animated films to try Looney Tune style humor. You could see it like with those scratch shorts were very much just CGI Looney Tunes. And they were very well executed. They've basically stayed the best thing of the films as they went along. Just Scrat trying to get the acorn, and then just the world to say, no, you don't deserve the acorn. You will suffer. And for the first film, and like this was when like it was just Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks back in the day. Because Warner Brothers at this time was just like, we suck. We're going to blame it on everything else but us. These characters were not seen that much within the world of animation. Like you had like the angry loner, the pseudo like I might be a bad character, but I'm going to turn a good guy. And I mean, granted, we've seen characters like Sid the Sloth before, the comedic relief. But it was just different enough back then. It's kind of easy to overlook that aspect because unlike now, we didn't have that many animation studios in the US.
Compared to today, the field of competition was rather slim.
Yeah, it was just like Disney, Pixar, Blue Sky, and DreamWorks. Just 4. And now we have like Illumination. We have Warner Brothers back in the game. And now everyone's really interested in what's coming out from all over the world. But then, like, as the films went on, it seemed like they were straining for overall enjoyable stories, at least to me. The animation kept getting better. Blue Sky was continuously improving on their craft, but I think the stories got weaker. And the third one is fine. I think I like the first 2 more because they have the most emotional beats.
Oh, sure.
But the third one did give us Simon Pegg as Buck Wild, who has been the best character of the franchise and was the only reason Collision Course was, to me, watchable. And then it's just when we get to Collision Course back in, oh man, that was 2016.
Yeah, 6 years ago.
Yeah. And it was just like, the last legs of that franchise. There was just not a whole lot left to go, but they brought back Buck, and that whole sequence of him fighting the pretty much non-existent villains of the movie, or they were just like such a non-entity, even though one of them was voiced by Nick Offerman. That whole sequence is great. Simon Pegg was the one to pretty much revitalize the franchise, because at that point it's just like, oh, the stories were just not good. And even Collision Course, I think, lost Fox and Blue Sky money. I think after a certain point, everyone was like, okay, Blue Sky, you got to give us something here. I think we're getting to that point where we were getting to that point back in 2016 where there were some amazing films coming out. And due to the blood hungry nature of the film and entertainment industry, people were looking for more.
To be fair, it wasn't a complete failure. It just made like not nearly as much as the last few. Like it only made 408.5 million on a 105 million budget.
I mean, granted, that's not nothing. It's just
compared to the previous film, which I think got close to $1 billion.
It's just like there has to be more to it, and people were looking for more at that point, because 2016 was the year we got like Zootopia, Moana, My Life as a Zucchini, Miss Hokusai, Kubo and the Two Strings, and also the giant smash hit from Makoto Shinkai, Your Name, and also Mamoru Hosoda's The Boy and the Beast and April in the Extraordinary World. 2016 was a good year for animation. Anyway, I was thinking we weren't going to get like an Ice Age 7, and I was kind of happy to see that we were going to get a film based around the best character, until we actually got the trailer for it.
The trailer was very yikes.
Well, it was just like they built it up, and this was like after I think we got the Diary of a Wimpy Kid trailer, and it was just like, oh, so this is what exclusive made Disney Plus animated films are going to look like. Okay, I guess. It was a little worrying because Netflix, for all their warts and constant things to complain about with them, were throwing down money with their exclusive features, or they were, of course, picking them up for distribution. And to see Disney be like, hey, here's this new movie, and it looks almost abjectly worse than the first film, is disappointing.
That shouldn't have been possible, to look for CGI to be moving backwards.
Yeah, no, that part was just like, no, man. And then it came out that it's like, oh yeah, we're using an entirely different studio, but we still got Simon Pegg. Unfortunately, he was the only cast member to return. We don't have Ray Romano or Queen Latifah or John Leguizamo. And you can tell with Crash and Eddie that Josh Peck and I forgot the other guys.
Sean William Scott.
Yeah, Sean William Scott were not there. And I give him kudos for doing the actors that did take over the roles for these characters. A lot of them did what they could. The person who did Ray Romano's character,
Sean Kennan,
I think so. He did a good job impersonating Ray Romano, the guy who did Diego's voice instead of
It was Dennis Leary in the films, and here he's voiced by Skylar Stone.
Well, Skylar Stone did what he could with the character of Diego, but I don't think he had that many lines in the movie.
He had at most 5.
Yeah, I guess let's talk about a few positives, or the 1.5 positives that we could find.
I'll get this one out of the way. Well, I don't think the character is written that well. I did get the occasional chuckle out of Utkarsh Ambudkar as Orson, big brain dinosaur who wants to take over the Lost World. I've always been a fan of Utkarsh in pretty much anything he's been in. I'm glad that the villain got to have a little bit of fun with the role.
Yeah, no, he was alongside Simon Pegg to be the only ones to have fun with their characters, even though the writing for both of them weren't great. It's really distracting because Simon Pegg has so much fun and energy in the previous films as Buck, and the fact that it just seems like it's very direct to video dialogue sounding ish stuff from him and Orson, it was just like, no. I just found this movie really boring, to be honest. It felt like a direct to video movie. And I know they tried to have some kind of meaningful story between about like family and being brave and such,
Emphasis on the try.
but you know what the biggest problem is? When you were describing the plot, did you catch the problem in that synopsis?
The fact that it was very bare bones.
They made a sequel movie about Crash and Eddie. That's honestly the biggest issue here. They're not strong enough characters to base an entire movie around. And when the movie is called Adventures of Buck Wild,
You'd think Buck Wild would be more the focus.
like they don't pull this nonsense with Puss in Boots. And at least Cars 2 had the cast throughout a majority of the movie. Buck should have just been the main character. Just focus on him. I'm just struggling to remember what happened in this movie. It was just like so uninteresting of a story. And what it doesn't help that Crash and Eddie are extremely annoying in this movie.
They're an example of like the most shallow type of comic relief. And I think maybe the problem with centering a movie around Buck is that maybe someone thought that he was just too unhinged of a character to take center stage. But then there are scenes with like him and Z together, like by themselves, that kind of disprove that. I think if handled better, you could have made a movie that was like more centered around Simon Pegg as opposed to him being the supporting player in his own titular film.
It's like with Puss in Boots from DreamWorks, they didn't just shove Donkey in there or anything like that. They kept it to Puss in Boots. And I don't know why they couldn't have done that here. I'm struggling to understand why we needed Crash and Eddie. They didn't have much of a character arc or really any personality past being the annoying brothers to Queen Latifah's character. And like, I wouldn't be saying this if they just had substantial writing, but there's just nothing to these characters.
I learned something. Back in 2018, the Stacey Snider, who was working for 20th Century Fox at the time, announced there would be a television series surrounding Buck Wild, and it was going to be at Blue Sky Studios. This really does kind of feel like one of those Eisner era Disney direct-to-video movies where they take a failed pilot and just kind of massage it into a movie.
Yeah, that's what it really feels like. And I thought we were past that point.
Apparently not.
The CGI quality is very lackluster. Everything just looks kind of dead. The designs are just fine. You miss a lot of the more character details from the movies by going to this direct-to-video vibe and look. And I'm sure Disney was just like, hey, make a movie off of this because we got this IP and IP is everything now. So go do it. Just do it. Push something out. You don't have much of a time. You got a year and a half. And it just feels like they just didn't have a lot of time to make this into a more substantial story or just visual look. And there was this one moment in the film where Justina Mikado's character Z, who like for like I thought she was fine. Z is just such a non-existent character. She's just there to be the love interest for Buck.
Basically.
And her one thing is that she's like this skunk like animal.
A Zorilla.
And with that, it's just, of course, one of her main things is that she uses like, I don't want to even say it's a fart joke or a fart gag, but it's hard to come up with what else it is. Yeah, they really just undercut a lot of these characters. And they just, this thing has the same issue with all of those freaking direct-to-video films. They bring back all your favorite characters, and yet they don't do anything.
It's particularly bad with this movie where the herd is literally just walking to where they think they found Crash and Eddie, and then they play there in the climax, but other than that, they're really just kind of nothing.
Like, the whole thing is kicked off because Ray Romano's character, who is still just a jerk for some reason, and I had a like tough time kind of like pinpointing when this like takes place. Like, is it before they have a kid, or but no, that can't be it. So it takes place after the movies because Manny and Ellie's daughter is not there. So, or I guess they didn't have the budget or enough dialogue for the other characters to do anything.
It's probably all of the above.
Seriously. Oh my gosh. And Orson is just okay as a villain. The gag with the brain and such and what kind of dinosaur he is a little creative, and he has a few lines that are pretty funny. But man,
yeah, this is one of those cases where the performance is sort of rubbing up against the actual writing. There's just not a lot there to work with.
It's a bummer talking about this movie because there's just not a whole lot to it. The herd, or the quote unquote herd, their only thing is they just go find Crash and Eddie. They go back to the underground world, and then they run into the dinosaur from the third movie who just doesn't do anything. It's like so many characters just do nothing. They introduce this action team that Buck was a part of, and it's just there to build up world building for Buck. And then you see some of the characters and they just, or I can't even tell if they were the same characters from that action team, but then they just don't do anything with it. It's like while watching this movie, I was constantly like, I could be watching anime right now. I can be playing Pokemon right now. I could be doing 100 different things.
I honestly felt the same way. Like, even before watching this movie, I was already kind of in a sour mood just from the day today has been. But watching this movie, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I could be doing literally anything else. I could get started on Vox Machina. We could be covering the Orbital Children, but instead we wanted to get this one out because, you know, it was a quickie.
It's like nobody was going to care about this movie if we talked about it back like later in February, because even by that point we have like Kid Cosmic and a few other things to talk about. So like, especially the Cuphead show, a few things are coming out in February that we can talk about, which are going to be very interesting to say the least. But this film felt like it was just dragging its feet, and nothing personal against the directors or the studio that made it. They did what they could, and unfortunately what we got was just not stellar. And I wish there was just something else to talk about, but like I guess like one thing that I noticed is that they keep doing this thing where they're trying to roast marshmallows, but they're obviously mushrooms.
Mm-hmm. I never really understood that, and they even like continue to call them marshmallows. I'm like, guys, that's clearly a mushroom.
That was always a problem with the Ice Age films. They kept trying to have pop culture references, but then it's like they never made sense. And it always felt like a studio note with those kind of moments. Like I think like Collision Course had like a Facebook or a MySpace kind of reference, and it's like, you guys, it's prehistoric. What the hell are you talking about?
Like at least when the Flintstones made pop culture references, that was more targeted, and it was like a deliberate satire of sitcoms from that era.
Like that was the entire joke, and that's why it was funny, or at the very least creative for the time. And here, like I was rewatching the second and third film before we did this podcast. Like I watched them after watching Adventures of Buck Wild, and I was already having like a lot more fun watching them. And it just made me miss Blue Skies as a studio and just the talent that worked there. And like again, don't blame this movie's existence on Nimona getting canceled.
I say this with all the respect in the world towards the people at Bardell Entertainment. This movie is just not, it's not worth really the hate, nor is it worth anyone getting harassed because of a movie they don't like.
It's tough. It's the first movie to come out after Blue Sky got shuttered, and it was already like walking around with a target on its back, and that's not fair for it. And it's just sad. This movie is just a sad thing to have come out. And like what's even sadder and really rage inducing is not this movie. It's the fact that Disney apparently is in talks with making a Rio 3. I can't even just muster the anger for it, because it's just like, if this is what the future films are going to look like on Disney Plus, I don't really want them then. I mean, Disney's not going to be listening to us and be like, oh, well, this guy didn't want it, shut everything down. They're not going to do that. I mean, I wish they would put Turning Red back into theaters, but that's another topic for another time. But if this is how they're going to handle the Blue Sky properties, I don't know if I'll be there to check them out. This was just, so far, it's the weakest film in the animation lineup. And I know that's not saying much, because only like 5 or so films have come out in via animation this year. But still, I cannot see a lot getting worse than Adventures of Buck Wild. I'd rather they have just made a TV series out of this. Like put it in the that Tangled TV series visual style.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. Like do that instead. Do a mini series or just a TV series for Disney Plus with Buck, and bring Simon Pegg back, and just get like the teams behind like Jellystone or something, like a more chaotic comedic animated film or show.
You know what would be perfect? The team behind Rise of the TMNT.
Oh, that'd be fun. Or you know what? I still have it on the brain because it's such a good movie. Get the SEAL team behind this.
Oh, that would be so good.
Like for the Adventures of Buck Wild, there's just not a whole lot of adventures, and the action's not all that great. It's just so drab looking. And just, here's something that really annoyed me actually before we stop. They try to recreate Ellie's origin story about how, she got adopted into being a possum. They retell that part of the story in the movie.
Oh.
And since I just happened to watch the second movie afterwards, the second movie looks better than this.
Wait, is it like beat for beat the origin?
Yeah, beat.
Oh my god!
Beat. And it's always that thing when you watch like a sequel to a movie that was like theatrically released, and it's like, no, do not show this, because right after this flashback ends, we're going to get a serious downgrade in animation, which is what happened to that I think it was like Secret of Nim 2.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's like they showed the clips from the first movie, and then it cuts to the second film and it's like, oh.
I always get annoyed when when you see that, and like you said, the quality dips almost immediately. The dip for me started as soon as something we haven't talked about yet is the intro of this film, which is like a cave painting recap of the previous Ice Age movies. They had the balls to bring up the baby during this recap,
Yeah.
and we have not seen a single human being since the first film.
That is always so funny. Where are the humans? It's like you're telling me that the humans never just saw all this nonsense happen and they're just like, huh, glad we're not over there.
Seriously,
like
they dropped the humans after one movie.
Man. And it just makes me think like at least the fourth and fifth film had decent villains. Like Peter Dinklage was the villain, like a pirate ape from a Continental Drift, and then like I said, with Collision Course, Nick Offerman played like this. I don't want to say like a religious zealot, but that's what he kind of was, because they're saying like, look at the meteor, and the meteor will bring us power and such, and bring a whole new leaves on life. And
yeah, it sounds like a cult leader to me.
Yeah. But it was Nick Offerman, so it's just like tolerable. Is there anything else to talk about? It's just bad animation, not great writing, sluggish pacing, and just the most bare bones experience you can get from this film. And I hate that we probably contributed to the popularity of this movie by talking about it and watching it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's the one downside to having a platform where, we want to cover the world of animation. So we kind of have to take the good with the bad. The last thing I'll say, speaking of having a platform, is New Deal for Animation. If you want, generally speaking, and this is probably the most selfish reason to support this cause, if you want better quality products, you have to treat your employees better. Give them more resources, give them the time, pay them what they're worth, and it'll ultimately be for the benefit of everyone.
Exactly, man. Just, I wonder what would have happened if they did give them the time they needed to make this film. Because I haven't seen a Disney related CGI film look this bad since their small trek into trying to make CGI movies without Pixar.
Oh, so like films like The Wild or
The Wild, what was that Vanguard animation? Valiant.
oh god.
And man, if you want to film that ages badly visually, Valiant is right there. Oh my gosh. And I'm not just saying that because Ricky Gervais is in it.
Was Space Chimps another Disney film?
No, it wasn't, but it was a Vanguard. This was during that time period where Pixar was like, we are thinking of splitting off and just being independent. And then Disney, of a action of things to come, bought Pixar. And we're like, okay, now you help us because we have no idea what we are doing. I think if you're going to watch an Ice Age film, watch the first three and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm basically just going to repeat what Cameron said. That could even be its own trilogy, and you don't have to worry about anything else.
Like, they're pretty decent movies still, and they're a lot more interesting and entertaining in this. And if you want to see Simon Pegg as Buck when like at his best, you just watch the third film, and then you watch that one story beat in Collision Course and what have you and such. It just seems like if this movie was focused solely on Buck and made it like this fun action adventure thing, and who knows, maybe it was just the wrong studio that worked on this. Maybe if they gave it to someone else, they would have gotten a better product. But we don't know what's going to happen or why they chose this studio and what their production cycle was. Let's just get to recommendations.
So my recommendation is kind of sight unseen, but by the time this episode's released, I will have watched the first couple episodes of Vox Machina, and I'll also have a little quick thoughts editorial about this Critical Role animated series that's on Prime Video. If you want more of my thoughts, definitely check that one out.
So to tease the big anime rundown, I'm going to tease one show that I mentioned and said I was not really sure of how people were going to like it, because I did my 3-episode rule, and I'm going to recommend Life with an Ordinary Guy Who Reincarnated into a Total Fantasy Knockout. It's, produced by Oriental Light and Magic, the same studio that did Komi Can't Communicate and Odd Taxi and the current home of the Pokemon anime. Well, the main Pokemon TV series, not the online shorts or anything like that. The problem is it's about two guys who, like, one of them is not interested in women, but is constantly like a chick magnet, while the other one is like constantly jealous of his friend for being this like drop dead gorgeous man. And one night, after just drinking at a bar, his friend almost passes out due to being drunk, and it's just like, man, if I was a girl, I would have no problems. And this goddess from a fantasy world comes in and says like, hey, I will take you to a fantasy world. And basically both of the guys just say like, who the hell are you? Are you even real? Are you just a hologram? Just get the heck out of here. My friend here is miserable. And she gets so pissed off, she sends them to the fantasy world by force, turns one of the guys into a total fantasy knockout, so an anime girl. And you would think the first episode doesn't give off the best first impression, but as I watched episode 2 and 3, everything started to work together to make it a more fun experience. The animation is very good, and the comedy is extremely funny. There's actually an encounter within the first episode that pays off in the third episode, and it's so funny. It's probably one of the most surprising anime of the season because, first episode impressions are everything, and when you don't give off the best first impression, you bring out hesitancy with like checking out the rest of the episodes. And I was happy that the clunky first episode and what have you, it got better. It's just so good. Like, it's probably one of my favorite anime of the season so far, and I can't wait to watch the rest of it.
This is the one out of all the fantasy shows. This is the one I've been looking forward to the most, especially once you got to the third episode.
I think like so far my favorite anime of the season are like Life with an Ordinary Guy, The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt, Saibikui Bisco, and Miss Kuroitsu of the Monster Development Department. I think those are just the most really rock solid shows that I've seen so far. I haven't watched everything yet, but it's the ones that I've had the most fun with watching. Outside of Sasaki and Miyano and My Dress Up Darling. So we'll talk about that next time.
Yep. But until then, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Cam's Eye View. I have my own website called camseyeview.biz, where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. If you like my work and you'd like to support me in some way, shape, or form, you can go to Patreon and, do that. I will have a Ko-Fi account up soon, and I'll make sure to plug that afterwards.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/Coach K42. And you can find me in all the various Facebook groups just at my name. You can check out Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also look for us on the Banana Meter, and you can listen to all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. If you like what we do, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a rating, all that good stuff, so we can keep doing what we love. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this mini episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.